Money moves through software every second. But would you trust a payment system with your money if it wasn't built carefully? What actually happens when you click Proceed to Payment? Hi, I am Shayma, and I'm building an e-commerce system through the failures it might face in the real world. Today we are talking about payment integration, the most sensitive part of any e-commerce application. A successful payment isn't enough. The real challenge is making sure the system handles failures safely. While integrating payments, I had to think about questions like: should I trust the front end to determine whether a payment succeeded? What happens if the payment request is submitted twice? What happens if the payment provider sends the webhook more than once? What if the user refreshes the payment page during the process? Let's break down how a real payment flow works and how we can design it to be secure and reliable. Before discussing failures, let's understand the normal payment flow. The user adds products to the cart and proceeds to check out. When the user clicks the payment button, the front end doesn't communicate directly with the payment gateway. Instead, it sends a request to our backend. The backend creates a payment intention with the payment provider and stores a payment record in our database. This record contains information such as the order, amount, and the gateway order identifier that will later help us track the payment. After that, the payment provider returns a payment link or a payment session, and the front end redirects the user to the secure payment page. The user enters card information and completes the payment. At this point, many developers make their first mistake. This brings us to our first failure. Failure number 1: trusting the front end. Initially, it may seem tempting to mark the order as paid as soon as the user lands on the success page. The problem is that anyone can modify URLs, refresh pages, or trigger front-end actions manually. The front end should only display information. The backend should decide whether a payment is successful. That's why the source of truth becomes the payment provider's webhook. A webhook is a server-to-server notification sent directly from the payment gateway to our backend. When the gateway confirms that the transaction succeeded, the backend verifies the payment and updates the order status to paid. The user is redirected back to our website with a successful page. Not the browser, not the front end, the backend. Let's see how this looks in code. The front end sends a payment request to the payment controller. The controller delegates the work to the payment service. The service creates a payment intention through the payment gateway implementation. At the same time, we store a payment record in our database with the order ID, amount, payment status, and the gateway order ID, returned by Paymob. The gateway order ID becomes extremely important later because it allows us to match incoming webhooks to the correct payment record. When the payment provider confirms the transaction through the webhook, we use that identifier to find the payment, update its status, and then update the related order. Failure number 2: payment submitted twice. Imagine a user clicks the payment button multiple times, or the network becomes slow and the user thinks nothing happened, or the browser sends the request again after a timeout. Without protection, your system may create multiple payment records for the same order. To prevent this, every payment attempt should be associated with a specific order session and tracked carefully. Before creating a new payment, the system should verify whether an active payment already exists for that order. Here is the protection against duplicate payment requests. Before creating a new payment, I first check whether a payment already exists for this order. If an active payment is found, the system doesn't create another one. Instead, it reuses the existing payment information. Failure number 3: the webhook arrives twice. This surprises many developers. Payment gateways may resend webhooks when they don't receive confirmation from your server, even though only one payment occurred. Your backend may receive the same success notification multiple times. To solve this problem, payment processing must be idempotent. In simple words, processing the same webhook twice should produce the same result as processing it once. When my webhook arrives, I first check whether the payment has already been marked as successful. If it has, I ignore the duplicate notification. Now let's look at the webhook handler. When Paymob sends a success notification, the first thing I do is locate the payment using the gateway order ID. Then I check the current payment status. If the payment is already marked as successful, I immediately stop processing. Failure number 4. The user refreshes the payment page. Should the payment disappear? Of course not. A reliable payment system should not depend on what happens in the browser after the payment is completed. Because the webhook updates the backend independently, the payment remains recorded even if the user refreshes, closes the page, or returns hours later. When the user opens the order page again, the front end simply requests the latest order status from the backend. The database already knows whether the order is paid. That's why the order information remains correct. Building payment systems taught me that successful payments are actually the easy part. The difficult part is making sure the system behaves correctly when everything goes wrong. Users click twice, networks time out, browsers refresh, webhooks retry. A reliable payment system is designed with those failures in mind from day one. Because in software engineering, success is expected. Failure is what you have to design for. So what do you think will go wrong with the payment integration system? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you find this helpful, subscribe. See you in the next failure.